working, and so everybody could be safe and have the elevators work again.
You know, it's very difficult not to come across angry. Because when you say it's a terrible situation, from our perspective, where we have the luxuries of using elevators to get to and from work, and we have options, and we have a hearing specifically on elevators, I would imagine that someone would be looking at every issue, preparing this panel to answer the questions of the council members. And it's obvious that that's not happening, because Family Services has not contacted these residents, has not identified their needs, especially those that are handicapped. Otherwise, there would never have been a need for them to be interviewed by any media. You would have made accommodations. You would have been on top of them. You would have been in constant communication with them. You would have relocated them.
So, Council Member, actually the families were reached out to and were offered a different apartment. And for whatever reason, only 3 accepted other apartments within Throgsneck. So our first choice was to make sure that families, were as close to as possible at home. And luckily, we were able to make sure that the 3 families who accepted apartments accepted them in Throgsneck. People have to make decisions that are best for them. And not every family, decided that they wanted a transfer for whatever reason, and we're not, here to, judge that reason. But every family was reached out to. We are making accommodations for those families with stair climbers, so they can get out in the morning and in the evening hours as well with the stair climbers. But as Ms. Koch said, this is a safety issue. Where there is no cutting corners. We have an elevator here that is structurally not sound in order to run. And we are, getting it in condition where it needs to be as fast as possible. We are working with the residents, but I don't know a word in the English language that can even overstate how frustrating it must be to the residents who live there. Whether you are...
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my exact point. That we talk about this is a terrible situation and we're trying our damnedest to get this right and restore services. Mm-hmm. But they're living with it.
That is correct.
Every day. And the question is, I come from property management. When I had an issue, I was on that phone, following up. But when a name that was on a major network is not familiar to you, and you're not prepared that that's going to come up, and you have an overzealous council member that is pretty vocal, I say shame on you. Because there are 3, and please, Mr. Honan, you're not expected to know everything. I don't expect you to know everything, but we have certain safety nets in place. Family Services is one of them. Is that correct?
That is correct. But Council Member, I think you should say shame on me, because Yuka was on vacation and I did call her up here and I shouldn't have done that. So shame on me for doing that. Anyone who knows Yuka knows that she is one of the most caring individuals I've ever met. She has over 400,000 people, who her very small department does look after. The fact that, yes, after coming back from vacation over a few hours, maybe this name didn't, ring a bell at that moment, does not mean that she has not, spent her time working with these families. She and her team do incredible work, and I just, so shame on me for asking her to come up.
Can anyone give me an update on Milagros Franco, an amputee? Both legs are amputated.
Once again, Councilmember, we'll be happy to talk.
Can anyone give me an update on Lisa Jenkins?
On individual situations, we'll be happy to set up a meeting with you and talk about each one of these. I just don't think that in a public forum like this, to give out people's private information is appropriate.
I just Googled them.
Okay, yeah,
it's not that they've had contact with them and it's in privacy.
Right.
They've gone on major networks because they couldn't get the services. They were interviewed. They took the time to be interviewed and answer the questions and explain their frustrations and the living conditions that they're going through on a daily basis.
I understand.
So this is not a secret.
I understand that, council member, but that's a decision they made at that time. I don't know if their circumstances have changed. I don't know. I really would like to talk to you about this, not in this board.
Let me just get this straight. That we offer options to relocate, and if they opt not to, for whatever reason,
right,
and they may have their own reasons, we just forget about them. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, that is not. Family Services does check in with those families to ask them, because time may go by and they may say, you know what, in May I decided I didn't want to relocate, but now it is really getting to be very hard. So I've changed my mind. I would like to relocate, and now can you please help me with that?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
That's my point. So you just explained that Family Services stays in contact with them.
That's correct.
This is a hearing specifically on elevators, correct? One of the issues that we're supposed to...
It's on accommodations, but elevators are a huge issue in that regard.
And the disabled in NYCHA, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't this have been something that you'd be prepared for? Whether it be Ms. Uka, who's on vacation and just came back, and I get it, but someone else, I'm sure it doesn't rely on her solely to answer these questions of a council hearing?
Well, once again,
The follow-up, that's all I get.
Follow up, and we will follow up with you on these
Not with me.
individual cases.
I want to know if you followed up with them.
Right, and they are following up with that.
They're the ones that are suffering, not me.
Let me, let me say this real quick. So, when I used to be a case manager for mentally ill homeless, right? And I have etched in my brain, etched in my memory, cases that I had from 20 years ago when I worked at God at Riverside. When someone says to me, what was the hardest impact on your job and your career when you was working in Central Park, I can tell you it was when I met Sammy Hinton when he was on a park bench, and I was able to take him to the hospital. So you have cases that really hit home, right? And so, Ms. Bucket, there's nothing against you. I think you're an amazing person. I mean, you've been doing this for many years. But I was kind of shocked when I asked a question about this woman and her daughter, and you said, who is that? Because they have been without an elevator since May 30th. Even if I went on, when I go on vacation, I don't even know what a vacation is, because my work goes with me, right? As much as I want to disconnect, if I don't take my cell phone, I'm still going to remember the cases that I have, like the people that I have encountered, right? Human beings that are going through some serious issues, right? And so it's not to beat up on you or anything, but I thought it was a bit appalling that I would ask the director of Family Services, Family Partnerships about a story of family that hit so many New Yorkers between last night and this morning. And so you just got off a plane, where you were. I think the first thing that somebody should have done was briefed you on what happened, right? And that was just the story itself on the news. But the fact that this family has been without an elevator since May 30th, that has nothing to do with the media, right? That has all to do with how you are working and engaging with the residents in New York City housing, some of the most vulnerable people in society, right? And so can you speak to that? Because, right, like, this is, like, I'm kind of feeling awkward anyway asking this question to you because I'm shocked.
Right. So I may not be familiar with that case, but like you said, there are many cases that I'm totally familiar with when.
But this, when the elevator